Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. How the Obamacare brawl affects you, and that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Classic left-right brawl. President Obama and the Democrats wanted to provide health care to Americans who could not or would not pay for it. Republican Party and President Trump don't want to do that. So the battle lines are drawn. Here are the facts. 81% of all Americans who signed up for the Obamacare health plan will receive government assistance of some kind this year. Some will have their entire health care premium paid for by the federal government. That cost American taxpayers more than $100 billion last year alone. That's the essence of Obamacare, that all Americans are forced to buy health insurance so that the have-nots can be subsidized and covered by the haves. It's estimated that since Obamacare passed, 13 million people have health insurance who did not have it before. Enter President Trump, who says that Obamacare costs are way too high and the program's a disaster in every way. So the Republicans will put forth a new national health care plan. This one will not order you to buy health insurance. If you don't buy it, your option will be go to the emergency room and get treated. If you can't pay, the taxpayer picks it up just like the old days. If you cannot afford health insurance premiums, the Republicans want the states to handle it through Medicaid. President Trump and his acolytes essentially want out of the health care business and will send federal money to the individual states so they can decide who gets what. But the Medicaid tax dollars will be kept. Liberals hate that. They hate it. They want the feds to dictate health insurance costs and who gets free or subsidized insurance. So that's essentially where we are. The key question for you, the American citizen, is will your health care premiums go up or down once Obamacare is history? Today, the Congressional Budget Office said that under the Republican plan, the feds will spend about $337 billion less subsidizing health care over the next 10 years. But about 21 million more Americans will not have health insurance by the year 2020. Again, that would most likely be their own choice not to have insurance. The CBO does not know what might happen if the insurance companies are allowed to compete nationwide, which they cannot do now. Will that drive premiums down? That's the hope on the Trump side, but not on the left. Senator Sanders is angry because the Republican health care plan knocks out an Obamacare payroll tax, 0.9%, and a tax on investment income. Sanders saying that gives money to rich people. And that's always the argument from the left. Any tax breaks, especially on investment income, sales of stocks, interest, that kind of thing, helps the wealthy. But the Trump administration has promised to lower taxes, and the health care plan does that. It's simply impossible for you, the American consumer, to know how this will all turn out. As they say on the West Coast, it's complicated. Summing up, liberals want a big entitlement culture. Some uber conservatives want few, if any, entitlements. More moderate Republicans want the states to handle health care entitlements with limits. There you have it. And that's a memo. Now for the top story reaction. Joining us from Washington, Senator Lindsey Graham. Where do you come down on this, Senator Graham?
That was pretty good, actually.
Thank you.
You left out one. Actually, it was very good. You left out one thing. Republicans have a refundable tax credit to help low-income people buy health care that are not covered by Medicaid. Here's where I come down on this. Obamacare is a disaster. In my state, in 2014, there were 5 health care companies providing health care through the exchanges. We're down to 1. There's a 27% increase in premiums this year, and the 1 may leave.
Why did the others bail? Why did the 4 bail in South Carolina that were operating in 2014? Why did they bail?
Because the mandates required them to cover people, and they couldn't collect enough money.
So they weren't
even
making
with
money.
the subsidies. They weren't making money. They went out of business. To President Trump, don't take a bad deal. You're a great negotiator. If you can find a better way using Republicans alone to replace Obamacare, do it. But if you can't find a bill that you think helps America, not just the Republican Party, walk away, Mr. President, let it collapse, and it will, then challenge the Democratic Party to help you,
guys
because they're the ones that created this mess.
You should, and I'm not saying this with any partisan feeling at all. You should be able to do it, and there's two reasons why. Okay, the first one is the competition level. All right. So you get the little gecko lizard, and you get the other people, and they all can come up with their own programs to sell anywhere in this country. That is going to drive premiums for the working Americans down. It has to, because there's more competition. It's okay. If I don't want to go with this insurance company, Allstate, I'm going to go with State Farm. I'm going with the lizard, wherever I'm going with, because it's a big, big country. You know, everybody needs some protection. So that's number one. Number two, as you rightly pointed out, there are, for the poor and the disinterested, all right, safety nets, so that you can, if you earn very little money, write off, all right, almost all of your federal tax if you buy health care insurance. So you won't have to pay any tax. Just buy your health care insurance. But that still isn't going to mean that ne'er-do-wells and people who are apathetic or too stupid are going to buy, and they won't. And they won't. And that's what the CBO said today, that you're going to have a rise in the uninsured. But in our capitalistic society, it's, you know, you have to protect yourself. I mean, it's not a nanny state. But Sanders wants a nanny state, does he not?
Yes, he does. The goal of Obamacare was to destroy the private sector and put everybody under government control by making it so expensive that companies would drop coverage and pay the fine, and these exchanges would be run by the government. They're trying to do through the back door what they couldn't do through the front door, which is single-payer plan.
Yeah, they want the
British
British
What am I trying to do is what you said. So the problem under reconciliation bill is that we can't do the across state lines purchases. We'd have to actually get 60 votes. So here's what I would suggest. Look at the CBO report as a sort of a blinking warning light. Obama ran through every stop sign and every warning light to get to where he wanted to go. All I'm asking is slow down, absorb this report, and remember, we're going to own what we do here for the rest of our political lives. And Donald Trump is the best deal maker I've ever seen. And if I were him, I would not take a deal unless I thought it was a good deal. I'd let it collapse.
I mean, look, I don't know what he's going to do. He's having rallies now, and I'm sure this is going to be the focus of them, and he's going to try to whip in public support. It's interesting that you can't get the insurance mandate to compete unless you get 60 votes in the Senate. But there are a lot of Democratic senators who are up for re-election, and boy, if they knock that down, it's not going to be good on their sheet. Now, while I have you here, you're investigating the assertion made by President Trump that President Obama had something to do with wiretapping Trump Tower. Today, they walked it back. Spicer did. Said, you know, he wasn't talking about the president himself ordering that. It was a general thing. And we know that Flynn was wiretapped and most likely in the Trump Tower. Coming up behind you is Dennis Kucinich, a former congressman who was wiretapped in his congressional office. So how do you see this thing?
I think I owe it to the people of the United States, your viewers, to let you know whether or not there was a warrant issued against the Trump campaign or Trump Tower by a lawful authority. So I've written the FBI and the Department of Justice, and I want them to provide to me, my committee, Judiciary Committee, any evidence of a warrant. If there is no warrant, then we'll have solved this problem. There was no wiretapping. Now, if Flynn ran into the Russian ambassador who was being followed because he's a foreign agent, that's different than having a FBI or FISA warrant on the Trump people. I don't know if that happened, but we all need to know whether a warrant was issued against the Trump campaign, and I promise you I will get to it. As to health care, I don't want to take a vacation in August unless we get this fixed, and I want the people who watch this program and everybody in the nation to know whether or not the Trump campaign was wiretapped by anybody.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Senator, and, you know, when you get it, please let us know. We'll break it for you.
You'll be the first guy. Thanks.
All right. Next on the rundown, a Democrat will reply to this discussion. Then former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, as mentioned, says his congressional office in Washington was tapped. He'll comment on the Trump-Obama fiasco up ahead. Continuing now with our lead story, how does Obamacare affect you? Joining us from Chicago, Dr. Austin Goolsbee, former economic advisor under President Obama. So you heard me bloviate, and you heard the senator, and you say?
You know, all I'd say is, you can have whatever complaints you want about Obamacare. We can discuss the details. I'd be happy to do that. But the Trump care that they're outlining here is clearly and demonstrably worse for millions of Americans. And everybody's going to know that.
Well, that's true.
By the time they vote on this bill, they are going to know that 24 million people are going to lose their insurance.
That's true.
How much their prices are going to go up.
But you have to put it in the context of it'll be worse for the people who don't take the time to get the safety net or use the safety net that's being provided. So that's really the essence of the debate.
I agree with that.
But wait a minute. No, say that you're making $30,000 a year, which I think are the people you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
No longer are they going to get direct payments from the federal government to buy their health insurance. They're going to have to go and write off, a pretty good chunk of their salary, which they'll get back, all right, because they'll have that health care, they'll have that health care deduction, which is a big, or go to their individual state, apply for the Medicaid, and get on that program. So there's nobody who's not going to be able to do those both things.
Bill, look, you're busy. You got to cover every issue. So I understand why you would not have gone through the details of what the Congressional Budget Office put out here. But it does not verify what you just said at all.
It doesn't discuss it.
If you make $30,000 a year, it shows that the amount that you are going to pay out of pocket if you're out on the individual market is some $10,000 a year more than it would be now.
The health care deduction. They didn't even, the CBO, which, by the way, wildly missed the Obamacare predictions, they didn't even take into account. They didn't even take into account, all right, what would happen if these pinheads in Washington could ever pass the insurance companies competing. They didn't even take that into account because that's going to drive down. That's going to drive down premiums for all working people.
Now, is this your thing about crossing the state lines?
Yeah.
Okay.
The CBO didn't even take that into account.
The Congressional Budget Office, hold on. The Congressional Budget Office concerns things in the budget. It has never evaluated the score of a regulatory change.
So you can't go on their stats if there's another alternative.
For not doing, but you can't criticize the CBO for not doing something.
I'm not criticizing. I'm reporting. They didn't even factor it in.
You're reporting.
So here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Most Americans didn't like Obamacare, which is why Trump's sitting in the White House, okay?
And they're going to like Trump care worse. They're going to like Trump care worse, Bill.
What they want...
If I promise you a diamond engagement ring, and then I give you something, you're like, wait a minute, this looks like tinfoil. What is this thing? Believe me, you're going to notice.
You're hoping or projecting that will happen.
I'm not hoping.
They have to know.
I'm hoping not.
The Republicans have to know
do this.
That it'll be a fiasco if these health care premiums don't come down. If the folks don't start paying less, the Republicans will lose next time around, okay? It's all about the dollars in the wallet. Okay, that's what it's about.
I agree with that.
It's not about Bernie Sanders saying, hey,
I agree with you.
We have to support 30 million people by giving them free health insurance. Americans have rejected that.
I'm not arguing about that. What I'm arguing is, number one, this is a clear, direct violation of one of the principal campaign promises Donald Trump made. He specifically said in the campaign that he would never cut Medicare or Medicaid. This is an $800 billion cut to Medicaid. It's just a direct violation of his campaign promise.
It's a cap, not a cut.
It's a cap. Okay.
All right?
Okay. It's a cap on health care costs, which you know are rising. So that cap, you can take that cap to the bank.
You can't do that. You have to look at what the reality of the budget is. And I'm not going to get too pinheady about it. All right. You're hoping it doesn't work. I'm hoping it does work.
No,
not for political reasons.
All I want
I just want people to have more money in their pocket. Last word, quick.
So do I. That's why we agree. We often agree, even though some of our methods disagree. We agree on what we're looking for.
Right. We want help for the working American. Impact segment tonight seems everyone in Washington is investigating whether or not President Obama was involved in wiretapping, as President Trump asserted. However, the White House said today that Mr. Trump was speaking in general terms about the tap, not accusing Barack Obama of actually installing it or ordering it. One former congressman has firsthand experience with this issue. 2011, Dennis Kucinich was talking to Muammar Gaddafi's son when the congressman was captured on a wiretap. Dennis Kucinich joins us now from Washington. First of all, why were you talking to Gaddafi's son?
Bill, I had a resolution in the House to try to stop the war and stop a takeover by Libya by radical Islamic fundamentalists. He called me to talk to me about it. I had cleared the discussion with House attorneys.
All right. So you're on the phone with Gaddafi, and you don't know you're being tapped. But did you think, well, look, Muammar Gaddafi's son, probably the NSA's got a wire on him wherever he goes. Did that go through your mind?
Well, of course, except for one thing. Congress is not supposed to be listened to by the executive branch. It's called separation of powers. And the protocol is as soon as they know that a member of Congress is on the line, they're supposed to discontinue it. But what I found out, Bill,
I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah,
so any tap in Congress, the Senate or the House, is illegal.
By nature of a tap, yes, unless they're working on a criminal case. That's not what this was. And what I have here, Bill, Intel was tracking my resolution. Here's a couple redacted pages that I was able to get. I've had nothing about the wiretap itself, but they were tracking this resolution. So you've got to ask, what was their appropriate role in redacting a resolution they were tracking?
Okay, who's they? I mean, was the NSA doing this?
This is the DNI. I got this
the
from the Director
Defense
of National
Intelligence Agency.
the Director of National Intelligence.
The
That's who this
Director of
came
National
from.
Intelligence under President Obama.
Right.
Okay, he's the president. All right, so President Obama had to know about it. All right, and so they're listening to you talk to Gaddafi because they want to know what Gaddafi is saying, because not the United States, but a coalition is going to go in soon and kill his father and remove them from power. That's what they wanted to know, right?
Well, you would assume that's what they want to know. But on the other hand, why were they listening to my end of the conversation? And a tape was made and played for me by two investigative reporters of the Washington Times 2 years after I left Congress.
So you didn't know for 2 years that this happened?
No, I heard the audio tape, Bill, and then I said, whoa, wait a minute.
So 2 years after this happened, after you were out of Congress, two reporters played you this tape. All right, there's the whole thing, right? You're not cut out of it, and they're supposed to do that. You heard the whole thing.
I heard the whole thing, and it happened actually 2 years after I left Congress is when I had sat down with the reporters, and they played this for me. And, look, Benghazi, you talk about Benghazi and Libya. It was such a disaster. The al-Qaeda flag was flying over the capital in a war that I tried to stop. And why were they listening into my conversation? Because they wanted to find a way to strategize to defeat the resolution that I had that would have
but who's they?
The war.
The
administration.
All right, so the Obama administration wanted to derail your efforts to keep the USA from participating in the demise of Gaddafi. All right, that's your take on it. So you want more information because you got yeah, okay, but a lot of it's redacted. You'd like to see the whole thing, right?
Absolutely.
So you got to go to Judicial Watch. They're the ones that could probably get you that. So then when you heard about Trump saying that President Obama tapped the Trump Tower, what went through your mind?
Well, I heard a lot of people laughing about it, and I said, wait a minute. I had something happen to me. I've never talked about it before. But I thought this is the time to explain to people that if a member of Congress can have his phone tapped on a policy matter, hey, this could happen to anybody.
Yeah,
so,
and
yes.
certainly Flynn was tapped with the Russian ambassador, and
right.
we're pretty convinced that it was in the Trump Tower. All right, Dennis, well, we're glad you're not in prison, and we're glad the Gaddafis didn't get you.
You too, Bill.
And keep us posted if you get any more info. It's a fascinating story.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. Now, they are removing scales from college campuses because some students say they're triggers. Unbelievable. Personal story segment tonight, 2 weeks from tomorrow. My new book, Old School, Life in the Sane Lane, appears in the marketplace. Theme of Old School is that the snowflake culture is harming everybody. I wish we had this next story when I was writing the book. At Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada, the capital of the country, the weight scale, physical weight scale that you stand on in the gym has been removed, apparently because it triggered some negative feelings among students. Yes. The newspaper on campus quoted a student saying, "I think people are being insensitive because they don't understand. They think eating disorders are a choice when they are actually a serious illness. So the scale is gone." Joining us on Boston, Marianne Marsh. And from Washington, Katie Pavlich. Katie.
Hi, Bill. Yes.
Do you know what the definition of triggering is?
I do know what the definition of triggering is. I looked it up in the dictionary. Just we have the right definition. Triggering happens when someone reads, sees, or hears something that causes a person emotional distress, specifically around a previous traumatic experience. But the word triggering is used on college campuses, apparently in Canada and the United States, to ban things that people simply don't like or that they don't agree with. And really, I think that using trigger warnings or using triggering as an excuse is just a way to really shirk the responsibility of acting like an adult.
Well, it's a way to shut down stuff you don't like. This entire program, Marianne, is a trigger. It should be the triggering factor. From start to, we're triggering.
Always.
But now the scale is gone at Carleton University. And you say?
Well, you can always put this part in the paperback edition. I think it coincides seemingly with a growing intolerance that many people have about a lot of things, and rather than dealing with the circumstances and the facts, they choose to change the facts and change the circumstances. And as a result, it undermines our society, it undermines democracy, it undermines our discourse, and it divides us further and further, so there's less common ground and less ability to compromise or deal with anybody or anything anytime.
It's also,
that was amazing.
Let me just simplify it. It's just stupid. It's stupid.
It is stupid.
So
yes.
if you go to the
there's
gym
that.
and you want to weigh yourself, see how you're doing, you can't. Why? Because that scale has offended someone, and that scale's out of here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
So think about it. Just think about how insane our PC culture, Katie, has become.
It's very difficult to think about it because, as you said, it is very stupid. And I just wish I had said everything that Marianne said, because it's very true about how this just further divides us. And quite frankly, it makes our societies weaker. You don't get stronger or empowered by having challenges taken away from you in life. You get stronger by overcoming those challenges. And this idea that having a scale in an athletic department is somehow a big problem just proves that these students have first world problems instead of real problems to overcome.
Yes.
In their lives. And, go travel, go to a foreign country, go to a third world country, see what they have to deal with, and then come back. And I don't think you'll have the same feelings about the scale in the athletic department.
Well, I smash my scale at home. I mean, I don't want anybody coming to my house triggering anything. So I'm going to give Marianne the last word, because I'm sure she has thoughts about doing the same thing.
I have two thoughts. One, it certainly doesn't prepare students for the world outside of college, which can be a cocoon. But I also think you're seeing this seep into society in other ways, where people now are starting to talk about alternative facts and fake news and undermining institutional information.
The real world
and I think that's very dangerous.
Is gone. But old school is going to bring it back.
Maybe here.
It is going to bring it back.
Thank God.
We hope.
When we come right back, Brit Hume on Putin's spokesperson saying Russians were in touch with the Clinton presidential campaign during the run-up to the vote. Then Waters on the healthcare fiasco. Moments away. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly. In the Hume Zone segment tonight, for weeks, the left have been trying to prove that the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government.
Did the Russian government have any collaboration or serious communication back and forth with Donald Trump's campaign during the election campaign last year?
The answer is very simple, no. And the fact that Russia is being demonized in that sense comes very strange to us.
Now, that man, Dmitry Peskov, is the personal spokesman for Putin. So take that into account. Mr. Peskov went on to say that the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, had conversations with the Clinton campaign.
Well, if you look at some people connected with Hillary Clinton during her campaign, you would probably see that he had lots of meetings of that kind. But there were no meetings about electoral process.
Inexplicably, Mr. Zakaria, the CNN commentator, did not even ask Mr. Peskov who in the Clinton campaign talked with the Russian ambassador. That's pretty stunning. Joining us from Florida, Brit Hume. First of all, do you believe anything the Russians say, Brit?
Well, I think whatever they say and whatever a spokesman for Vladimir Putin says should be taken with a considerable measure of skepticism. On the other hand, when he said that about people associated with the Clinton campaign talking to the Russian ambassador, it would certainly have been worth a follow-up to ask who that might have been. Now, I think, you know, if you step back from this interview, what it all adds up to is about what we've sort of known all along, although some refuse to admit it, and that is that for all of the talk about there being collusion with the Trump campaign, there simply isn't any firm evidence that that is the case. You could say even that there's not any evidence at all. There's suspicions, there are hunches, there are theories, but no real evidence.
Okay.
And that
I'm not
pertains
willing,
as well to the Clinton campaign.
I'm not willing to take anything that the Russians say as even remotely truthful. I think they're up to what they usually do, mischief. I think he dropped that line, the Clinton campaign, they talked with the Russian ambassador. But both you and I have been in the business too long. We really should retire, both of us, because we're so cynical. It's true, Hume. Admit it. We should be out of here. We're so cynical. So we know that Fareed Zakaria, when he heard that, in his mind he's going, holy you-know-what? I can't have this be the headline because I hate Trump.
Yeah.
The guy hates Trump.
Well,
and that's why he didn't ask
well,
him.
maybe so.
A 5-year-old would ask, who? Who is talking to him,
I agree with that, but I think another point that's worth introducing here, Bill, is the fact that the Russian ambassador is a man about town in Washington.
Sure.
I mean, for as long as I've been there covering news, you see the Russian ambassador at all kinds of places.
Yeah, if you buy him a
to
Whopper, he'll talk
dinner
to you.
one night.
You know, if you buy him
a Big Mac, they're always sort of jovial and approachable and friendly, and no doubt that doesn't mean that they're serving a great cause. But all kinds of people, on of all persuasions, run into the guy and meet with him. It just happens all the time. It is completely ordinary.
And they were messing with the U.S. election so that they were going to cultivate anybody.
Or trying to.
Right. I mean, they were trying to. Mischief is the word. Did you see the 60 Minutes thing last night Leslie Stahl did about all the Putin people who got poisoned and hit in the head and they're in a coffin? I mean, it was...
Yeah, all of which reinforces the point that I think, Bill, that we both believe, which is that Vladimir Putin is not a good guy.
No. I mean, it was pretty interesting to just watch one after the other, after the other, and that's why I posed the question to the president. I mean, but there's nothing we can do about it. See, there's nothing we can do. Here's my final question. All of these liberal Americans who don't like Donald Trump, think he was elected illegitimately, think Putin, did whatever Putin did. Do they get their money back from watching all of these cable shows where night in and night out, every segment is, they did this, they did that? I mean, because as you said, there's not a shred of evidence after all this time to back up anything that these cable programs
Well, Bill, I think you're entirely right about that. I've thought that for a long time, and I've said it before, but I would say this. Considering how little evidence there is, or indeed no evidence, they've managed to get a pretty good run out of it, not only on the cable shows, but they've got an attorney general who's now recused himself from the Justice Department's inquiry into the Russian role in the election. You've got investigating committees, I guess, now on both sides of Capitol Hill are looking into it, and it's a never-ending stream, as you say, of questions and discussions and today, even in the White House briefing, Mr. Trump's, I think, highly ill-advised suggestion that he was being wiretapped by the president, which is sort of an outgrowth of all this. That's created a big stir. So,
still in the
so the beat goes on.
It does. Pretty human, everybody. Dr. Tip today, we might not be here tomorrow night because everyone may die in a snowstorm in a moment. But first, the mail. Ken Hoover, Woodland Park, Colorado. Bill, in your talking points, you spoke about what the government owes citizens. You were spot on with defense, but not education and health. They are not listed in the Constitution. But promoting the general welfare is, and that is the job of government. That's why I should say school's mandatory, many other things that are not listed in the Constitution, such as safety nets for the poor. General welfare can. Steve Fink, Lafayette, Louisiana. If I receive a stolen TV, I can be prosecuted if I know it's stolen. If a journalist receives classified information, nothing happens to him or her. Not true, Steve. Courts have incarcerated journalists for not testifying about sources in classified information cases. Charles Bishop, Alpharetta, Georgia, WikiLeaks is not treasonous. American people have a right to know how we're being spied upon. Only if laws are broken in the process, Charles. Skip Parker, Henderson, Tennessee. Bill, Bernie Goldberg's remark that Trump supporters don't care if he lies was off the charts. He doesn't know us. Bernie was generalizing about some rabid Trump supporters, Skip, which I made apparent by saying that some Obama zealots didn't care either. He was not talking about everyone. Bernie was not. William Ramshaw, 9 Mile Falls, Washington. Bill, why would you say you don't feel sorry for people who use synthetic opioids? Does that make them bad people? I said, William, I find it hard to feel sorry for them because the danger is so widely known. Reminds me of a time in northern Australia when I approached a river. There was a huge sign saying crocs are in the water. They even had a little picture of the croc with his mouth open. So if I had dived in that water, would you feel sorry for me if I got swallowed? Comes a point when people have to protect themselves from harm. And if they don't, bad things are going to happen. DJ West, Palmdale, California. Bill O'Reilly, isn't it amazing how the little black girl on Waters World received no praise from you or Waters after correctly answering all the questions about the Alamo? Here's what's amazing, DJ, that you would hear me say, I want to hire that girl on the air and see Waters give her a high five. And you still write that email. That's what's amazing. Johnny Davidson, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Killing the Rising Sun did an excellent job portraying the final decisions that led to the end of World War II. I enjoyed the book so much I picked up Killing Patton. The decisions Harry Truman had to make dwarf what our politicians today are dealing with. And we should all know that. Thanks for reading the book, John. And finally tonight, the factor tip of the day, Snowmageddon, heading for the Northeast. Now, you guys who live in the upper Midwest or the Rocky Mountain region laugh at a foot of snow. You laugh at it, you mock it, because that can happen in May. But tomorrow here in New York City and up and down the East Coast, could be more than a foot of snow. So the panic is on. People are buying entire cows to make sure they have enough meat. 18 flashlights, canned soup that will last for 80 years. You get the idea. Weather forecasters hysterical, many of them breaking down. Already many schools are closed. People have been seen weeping. So here's the tip of the day. Overreaction is never a good thing. If it snows tomorrow, good. Build a snowman, have some fun. There's nothing to do with global warming. And if you have mittens, you will be fine. And that is it for us tonight. Please check out the Fox News Factor website, which is different from BillO'Reilly.com. Also, we'd like you to spout off about the factor from anywhere in the world. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. O'Reilly at FoxNews.com. Name and town if you wish to opine. Word of the day, no aspersion when writing to the factor. I will be here tomorrow. If it snows 18 feet, I will be here. Snow will not defeat me. Okay? We're going to do a live show. We're looking out the window and we're going to point out snow on the ground. Again, thanks for watching us tonight. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Please always remember that the spin stops here, because we're definitely looking out.